Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tactless Radio. Did you miss me? Because I missed you. It's your host, Be Bad, and we are back with my favorite host, my favorite co-host, David Alexander. Woo!
Think you should have.
This time around, we want to talk about something a little bit more serious. We want to talk about the Nolan Wells case that recently happened on July 4th. And the reason we want to talk about this is because we believe that it's very important that Black people who have to navigate through non-Black spaces understand how they have to keep their head on a swivel, how they have to have a certain discernment to themselves, they have to understand that if you are the only in a group, that's not going to be safe for you. That's not going to be great. Let's kind of take a step back, and I'm just going to discuss the summary of what was happening to Nolan case.
Yeah, I want to say for the record, this is probably going to be the most in-depth that I've gotten about this case specifically. Like, I do know why. I'm way too emotionally charged about Black death to constantly see it at this level.
I would agree.
Right?
I would agree.
And then to see it, so it's one of the things of, and I'm gonna let you get to your summary, but like, it's one of the things of like, when it's like, when we think about like racism, like covert racism, cool. When it's like hard to pinpoint and hard to say, oh, I can't really call out the way that you just said something to me is a microaggression or something, right? But this is like overt. This is loud. This is clunky. It's rude.
Yeah.
It's not even like, we're not even trying to hide it. So I've stayed far away from this. So I wanted to hear the summary. I'll have questions and comments, but.
Okay. Just to lay the foundation for anyone who is not familiar with the Nolan Wells story. Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old football player from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, who had recently graduated from high school and was preparing to attend football camp at Southwest Mississippi Community College. On July 4th, 2026, he traveled with his friends by boat to Horn Island, a barrier island off of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, to celebrate Independence Day. I do want to make note that he was with a group of friends who were white. Nolan Wells is a Black child. I actually believe that it came out that he's Black and Filipino, or that he's Black and some Asian diasporic mix, but we know for a fact that he was a Black child. The night that he was reported missing after he did not return with the group, authorities, including the U.S. Coast Guard and local law enforcement, launched a search. And on July 6th, searchers found his body in the water near the northwest end of Horn Island. Officials have not yet released the final autopsy results or officially determined the cause and manner of death, although investigators have said drowning is one possibility and that they have not found evidence of a crime at this stage. Wells's family has questioned the official narrative, citing that what they believe are inconsistencies in witness accounts and digital evidence. They have hired a civil rights attorney, Ben Crumpt, who has been on a lot of cases, and requested an independent autopsy, which recently I saw and heard that Colin Kaepernick is actually funding the independent autopsy for this family. And they are pursuing a independent investigation. Investigators have asked anyone who was on Horn Island that day to provide original photos and videos, particularly any that may show Nolan, any disturbances, as they continue to verify information circulating online.
First question is, has it been discussed like where or how his body was found?
I believe what I read was that they found him in shallow water. Like, he wasn't in the water, kind of like on top of a rock cliff, kind of off to the side of the island.
Got it. Okay. That was hard to hear.
Very.
That's hard to hear as a Black man who, for lack of better words, most of the spaces I think that I've occupied in life and career in so many spaces have been predominantly non-Black, right? And that doesn't, like, we have a complexity of life. So, like, I don't think I've ever had a job where I went to where everybody around me was Black or a majority of them were Black. I've only worked in spaces where a majority of people I work with have been white, excuse me. So there's a space of me, and I told this story before about being the only black one.
Mm-hmm.
When you are trained and conditioned to believe a certain way about existing, he didn't see the problem in that.
No.
Right? Nor did his parents. And the fucked up part is, I can relate to that because the shortest version of it is, I didn't realize it wasn't until like 20 or 21, when I was 20 or 21, I had a manager say something to me one day and it clicked to me. I was like, fuck.
What'd they say?
My manager, who I love at the time, she was like, David, I don't know how we got on it, but she's like, yeah, when you came in for your interview, before you came in for your interview, I didn't realize you were black.
Oh.
Right?
That's what she said?
Right? And I'm like, what do you mean? She was like, and she acknowledged like it's completely ignorant of me. She like, I never thought about it. She like, which is probably why you were able to pick up on my shock when I saw you. She's like, the way that you speak, the way that your name, like nothing about what we experienced of you before we saw you in person said black. And something as simple as that is how we get to spaces like this Nolan situation. And like, it's hard. I didn't expect it. Like, it is really hard to not be emotional about it.
I agree.
Right? Because I could have been him.
I completely understand.
Right? So what do we do with that? We're simultaneously telling our black boys and girls, you know, go out into the world, be free, be you. But then we also simultaneously having a conversation like, but you black, so you got to remember that you black. But then we put our kids in predominantly white spaces.
Yeah.
And don't understand why that shit doesn't make sense. And you can't tell me to be protective of myself by continuously putting in spaces that are potentially harmful to me.
Correct.
Except for when I'm in danger.
And what I want to say to that, right, the whole like, what do we do? I want to take a moment to talk to the parents, because this goes back before the Nolan Wells situation, but so many parents maybe just might not see the full picture and trying to do their best. And this is what I mean by that. A lot of times we have this understanding as black people that white spaces are better. We think about that from the perspective of schooling. We think about that from the perspective of neighborhoods and where we want to raise our children. And we have this assumption that if we're going to be in the better neighborhoods and the better school, have the better access, the better resources, that we need to break away from our black community, and then we have to assimilate ourselves into the white community. And I understand wholeheartedly, because I've had a lot of friends and like partners who have had this experience where they were living in beautiful homes, in beautiful neighborhoods, and went to great schools with all the resources, but they were the only black child. And what I don't think those children who are now adults are having the space to talk about is how traumatizing that is, to be the only black girl or black boy in a white school. Your parent had the great intention behind wanting you to get something better that they themselves did not have access to.
Yeah.
But I'm the first one, as a girl from Chicago, the south side of Chicago, I would be the first one to say that you can put your child in a great school and it be black. You can put your child in a college preparatory school and it be black. You can have the upper echelon neighborhood. You can have the nice home and the neighborhood be black.
However, the however to that though is that those are still siloed experiences.
Very.
Being as a motherfucker who's worked really hard to have access to those spaces as an adult, right? Hence how we met, right?
Yes.
And knowing like with things like Jack and Jill and all these other things, yeah, there is an elevated space of blackness, but that elevated space of blackness will never be the same as whiteness, right? And some of those people,
I don't agree. I think it's better, but I
definitely think I agree that it's better, right? Because the fucked up part is that we still want. I don't know, how do I say it? I think it makes me think about the young lady said, be happy that black people only want equality.
Very, very true. Because, baby, we should be burning this bitch to the ground.
Right? Because we're sitting here having a conversation about something crazy that has happened that is so blatantly wrong, right? It's obviously wrong. And guess what? Even if let's go on a limb and just say nothing crazy happened, right? But because of the history of this country when it comes to black people and black people being killed and black people being offed by white people historically for centuries, it's more easy and more plausible to believe that there is wrongdoing.
That there is some type of foul play.
Because there's a bunch of white people, one little black boy, and only the black boy didn't make it back home.
And to add to that, right, let's say that nothing happened. Let's say that there isn't any foul play. Then why did all the children that were with Nolan deactivate their accounts, their social media accounts? Why did they all lawyer up? Why is the stepmother of one of the children a judge? So now these children are kind of protecting themselves, deleting evidence, deleting their social media. And it's kind of like, if there wasn't any foul play, if there was nothing wrong, then why are we seeing you all take this outcome by lawyering up, by deleting everything?
For the exact same thing I just said, because it's more plausible to believe that there is wrongdoing.
Which makes us feel like, then baby, there is wrongdoing.
And because historically, shit like this happens.
Right, like if it looked like a duck, if it sounded like a duck, if it walked like a duck, it's racist.
Affleck. like, like, I agree.
I'm looking at a whole Affleck commercial right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, if I were in that situation, this is the what the fuck of it all. If my kid was in the same situation, I would probably do the same thing. My black kid in a space where somebody close to them passes or something like this happens, killed off, potentially off, yeah, we're doing the same thing. We're protecting you at all costs, even if you've done nothing wrong. But because of the optics of this, it's more than enough for me to want to make sure that you are lawyered up, make sure that we get you off of social media, make sure you shut the fuck up. Because even though nothing could have happened, what we learned and what we know about the law is not about right or wrong. It's about who can prove it.
What you can prove.
In what I've learned as someone who almost went to law school, the power of persuasion is incredible.
Yes.
Like, let's be very clear. I'm going to say something very controversial O.J. Simpson. It's not about whether he did or didn't do it. It was, can we convince you that he didn't do it? And something as simple that we make a joke about, the glove didn't fit, became a running joke. But like think about the plausibility because of a fucking glove not fitting. That was a part of a justification for why this man potentially could not have killed these women. Which doesn't mean anything at all. So yeah, I would do the same thing. So like and I don't want this conversation to be a thing where we're criminalizing the white parents or their white children either, but still holding space for all of it. Right? Because it's a complicated thing because of the history of this country when it comes to blackness versus whiteness or non-blackness.
Speaking to that point, I really do want, kind of focusing on the parents that I did a little bit earlier, to now talk to the children. As a woman who went to a predominantly white institution, grew up my entire life in a black neighborhood. I went to a black elementary school. It was a magnet school, so it was very, very smart kids. I went to a college preparatory, black college preparatory. I did not get my white experience until I went to college. I went to a Catholic white college. But what I had to learn very quickly is that it's not that any of those white friends or white students, and I'm very sure this is the case with Nolan, it's not that any of them had the intentionality to do harm. It's because I am black. It is that ambivalence of you just don't give a fuck.
No, it's the thoughtlessness.
It's the thoughtlessness.
You don't have to be concerned.
You hear me? Because there was a situation with a black boy on TikTok. Like a couple of weeks ago, there was a black boy, very similar situation to Nolan. He was on one side of the bank. All his friends swam over. He's not the strongest swimmer. And if it wasn't for this white family that was coming across that let him jump onto their canoe to get him to the other side, he would have drowned. But he was calling out for his friends like, oh, I can't swim that strong. The current is too strong. Come help me. And they're like, you're fine. You're good. You pussy. You just acted like a baby. You can do it. You can do it. And so many unfortunate examples of that happens, where the just thoughtlessness, the I don't kind of really give a shit, or I'm not even checking to see if my peoples is with me, that you end up unfortunately being the only black child in a situation where the harm that is done to you the most.
You just said something that made me just like click into something in my own head. The thoughtlessness is when it comes, and I can be wrong, but even when I think about like some of my non-black peers and friends, like I have some that are like, where's everybody? Make sure everybody's together.
Yes.
But most of the time, I look up and motherfuckers be gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But you know where I don't, or I rarely ever experience that when I'm out with my black friends? we were just out this weekend, and the moment I looked back, Sanita was with me, and I was like, wait, where's B?
We are shutting this shit down until everybody that I came with, I can put
together.
my eyes on.
Right, we're together.
That's how we roll. That's how we operate.
So like the idea of that, and even you and that just clicked for me, just like, damn, that's actually the thoughtlessness of it. Like, I also want to be very clear. The part of the reason, if there is wrongdoing in this that makes this even crazier, right, is Sterling K. Brown just talked about this on recently in a podcast that we saw. And he was saying, like, when they're being loud and crazy and burning crosses in your front lawn, we can point that out as blatant racism. But the thoughtlessness of racism is the part that are being taught, where a woman isn't thinking about too much until she sees a black person. Now she holds her purse closer. Or
correct.
No one's sitting here saying, hold your purse closer, white woman, but those are things that are innately taught.
Yes.
Through experience and through life. And now we're having this conversation about this young man who's lost his life. And I hate to use a cliche term, but like all this promise in his life. He's about to go to camp for football. He's graduated high school, and I want to be very clear. I think, okay, I'm trying not to get like too emotional, not cry because I feel it, because as a black person, something as simple as getting an education in this country is a fight.
Yeah.
Right. So now, in a space where this man probably thought he was safe. And safety isn't about necessarily, again, wrongdoing.
Right.
If, say, something happened where he maybe was in the water and couldn't swim, none of you were willing to help, that's just as fucked up as if you guys held his head under the water the entire time.
I would say, from a black woman perspective who has been in circles with white women, and listening to you say that, I immediately, unfortunately, thought of Natalie Galloway, the woman I believe who was in the Caribbean and went with a whole bunch of girlfriends, and she met a guy down there. She went off. They never saw her again. It's been like 12 years. They still can't find Natalie Holloway. But what I know to be true in the Natalie situation, which I have seen with my own fucking eyes, is that white girls don't have the same camaraderie of like, we came together, we leave together. They don't mind, oh, you met a nigga in the club, you
Bring
can leave
him
with
back
him.
to fucking Airbnb.
Which I've had that happen. Oh my fucking God. What do you mean this random ass motherfucker you just met at the club is in the Airbnb with all girls? Send his Morgan Wallen looking ass back, right? But I have noticed that the white girls just move so differently. But they move so differently to the point that it does not only jeopardize their safety, but it jeopardizes the safety of the group. And I was like, I can't hang around with you bitches no more, because y'all don't give a fuck about me. You barely give a fuck about yourself.
But the thoughtlessness in that is because they don't have to. White people don't exist in the world.
Because the white girlies know that at the end of the day, society will take care of them. The police will take care of them. Everyone gives a fuck about a white woman when she cries. And I had to realize that that is dangerous.
As Brenda once said, another little whitey fell down the well.
Right. Another little whitey fell down the well. Now we all give a shit.
The whole world stops for another little white girl falling down the well.
But that is so true. And it's unfortunate that I had to have, I'm happy I had that experience in a smaller way where I learned very quickly so that I could like detach myself. There's so many black children who don't understand that, don't realize it. And then I'm thinking even about some black people that I grew up with. A lot of them are kind of like, well, why do you look at white people like they're bad? Like they didn't do anything to you. Like there are some black people who have a very diverse set of friends, and they are the token in their circle, and they will say with their rose-colored glasses that they don't see a problem with the racial makeup of their friend circle.
If you're known in the street for smacking bitches upside the neck for any given reason, I don't need to wait for you to smack me upside the neck to think that you're unsafe. They didn't do anything to you. Yes, their breathing is doing something to me, unfortunately.
I have literally come across black people who are, specifically black men, right? Because I think this is also a very important intersectionality conversation of patriarchy, where it's kind of like black, very similar to the white women, where they're like, well, society will take care of me. Black men are like, well, I'm a man. So if some shit pop off, I can protect myself. I'm strong. I can like get these niggas up off of me. But it's such a delusional mindset to have going into the mouth of the beast.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
And it's unfortunate that not just with this case with Nolan, but there's so many black kids. And I'm saying it's like, I'm 36. We're in our 30s. We're in our late 30s, right? The difference between us and them is life experience. We're having this conversation because of life experience. Again, I just told you, I was 20 years old when my manager looked me in the fucking face and said, I didn't realize you were black. And it wasn't until that moment of realizing, fuck. Because I didn't see and let's be very clear, when she asked me the question, I didn't see a problem in her. I didn't see a fucking problem in this lady looking me in the face, this white woman saying, I didn't realize you were black. I didn't realize that was a problem until years later. And I was like,
that is a problem, ma'am.
It's a problem. It's a problem that we're having any conversation where, because of my name or the way that I speak, there's a subconscious space in which we start to identify who the person is.
Agreed.
And we do it on the phone all the time. I work in sales. You know how many times I got on a call with somebody and I realized that they black? All right, girl, hold on. Let me relax a little bit. Girl, because you know these white people stress me out. Like,
right. Cheryl, is that you?
Sherry, girl.
Sherry.
Girl, I know.
How you doing?
The energy shifts. The energy is different.
It does.
And it also the innate understanding, and I think I will say this too. I don't want to take credit for a struggle that was not mine, right? Mm-hmm. I do think that because of our age group, we experience so many different spaces, right?
That's fair.
Where I think these younger kids were those who are 20 and 25 and under, even though it's just like a 10 plus year gap, that gap is so significant in how we see the world, because we grew up in a time where our parents were, I can tell you right now, I got made fun of because a white girl called my crib in the second grade, who was my friend. My friend Marissa called, and everybody like, David got the little white girl calling the house. Or my mom having a rule telling my brothers, you can fuck anybody you want to, but don't bring no white girl to my house. Like, you know what I mean? So like, in a way, we were kind of raised in a way to kind of have this level of like disassociation from white people.
Yeah. Literally out of safety.
And these kids aren't being provided with that same rhetoric. And not saying that it's great, but that rhetoric plays a part in, I think, why we've been like, ooh, or little things where when I'm with my air quote white friends versus then when I'm with my black friends, right? We're the code switching of it all. Like,
yeah,
these kids don't understand there's a benefit and privilege to the fact that they don't have to code switch, but it's also harmful and dangerous because these white kids are still white people who are products of their races as white grandfathers and white parents who are innate. And here's the thing, this is not me saying that white people are naturally innately racist overtly. White people's racism that is a problem that we are talking about here in the combination of this case,
yes,
is that the thoughtlessness, the covert racism, things that you don't think are racist moments. Like, we're talking about the show The Madison the other day, and he asked the girl, after you get mugged, is the guy white or black? And she's like, why does that matter? Bitch, because we're looking for somebody. We need to know we're looking for a white man or a black man. Just because you said this
those
man
extra left-leaning white people get on my fucking nerves.
But it's because it's so specific around the idea of race in these moments. I wish it wasn't that.
Yeah.
But people are so adamant about not being racist that you forget that the things that actually help make us believe that you're racist aren't because you don't want to identify a black man that just punched you in the face.
Right.
Because that is not racist.
It's when you say, I don't see color, that I'm now looking at you a little sideways.
Because you see color in every fucking thing else when you put clothes in your fucking bag.
Right.
You see color when it's time to decide if you need to go if you need to go to the fucking hospital, if you're bruised, if you don't see color,
who your doctor is.
Who gives a fuck that your bruise just went from red to black? No one cares.
Right.
It's not dangerous.
Color doesn't mean anything. I mean, you look a little blue like you can't breathe, but color don't mean anything. So
the time color doesn't matter when it's black people.
And that, unfortunately, may have been some things that came up from Nolan's perspective. What I also thought was very heartwarming was that there were videos that were coming out about all of Nolan's friends going to Nolan's mom's house and like hanging out with her and spending time with her to just kind of help her grieve and to help her heal. And what was very interesting about those friends that came over to the home after they found his body was that was a more diverse crowd. I saw maybe two white kids, but majority of them were black. So then it also makes me feel so sad for Nolan, because it's like, what if that was a conversation that he did regularly have with his family and he's just hanging out with his football group that day? He's a part of different groups. We've been a part of different groups. Like my friend circle, right? Still are. Where like my friend circle isn't necessarily all black. But if I'm with these friends and we talk about these things or we have these interests, I'm the only black girl in a group of Latinas. And then there's a group over here where we're talking about networking and learning and development, and I'm the only black girl in a group of white girls. And it's one of those things that breaks my heart, because it's like, this did not need to happen. It shouldn't have happened. But how everybody is carrying themselves after the fact is showing that no one gave a fuck about Nolan's life. And that is where everybody online is having the discourse, because a lot of what we're now seeing, to add this to the conversation, is that there are so many parents, white parents specifically, who are upset about the conversation of parents who are parents of color or parents who have children of color saying, if I was in Nolan, if I had a Nolan Wells
everybody
child,
kid is on a shirt.
it's everybody gonna have something to do next weekend. Everybody,
As a matter of fact,
we all gonna have something. We all gonna be busy next weekend.
Let's get together and plan they shit together, because all of them will, like, but that
it's gonna be some slow singing and some flower bringing up in this bitch. Because if y'all come back and my baby don't come with you, baby, everybody going on the t-shirt. We up. And all the white parents are upset because black families, black parents, black parents of children of color are saying, gone are the days where you just get to treat our children like any old thing. It will be up.
But let's be very clear. This goes back to something I was saying just earlier. That's because those parents are us.
Yes.
Because we understand the dangers of what it means to be the only black kid in a white group.
Yeah, because we've
navigated some pace of that.
Yes.
Right? And white, here's the thing. White people love to be upset about things that have merits of truth of our experience. And I'm not mad at white people, and I want to be very clear. There's space for all of this. This is not me saying white versus black. One is better, one is worse. What this is saying that this is such a nuanced thing, and it's such a nuanced space, because at the end of the day, we are still talking about fucking children.
We are.
We are talking about kids and their futures, not just Nolan's future doesn't exist anymore, but these little white kids whose futures are forever changed by this, whether it's wrongdoing or not. Because if it's wrongdoing, yeah, y'all lives are ruined if somebody can prove that. And if there is no wrongdoing, this is why people go into hiding. This is why people change their names, complete new identities. Because we also live in an age of the internet where, guess what? If you think people aren't Googling your fucking name to try to find out shit about you, they are.
They most definitely are.
One of my friends does it for every nigga he dates.
Good.
Greg. Great. Like, Greg was like, girl, I Googled him. Find your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, all these things. Seeing pictures of you with your family. Like.
And I love Greg. Hi,
so
Greg.
Imagine being attached to something like this. If you think 20 years from now someone looks it up and it just doesn't exist, it will.
Yeah. The internet is forever. The internet is forever, and these kids know that. The people who are protecting them,
which is why they're trying to figure this out.
They know that, and it's getting to a point where I am hoping that they are able to find the additional information that they need. I am so happy to hear that Colin Kaepernick is going to fund the independent autopsy, and that's also another thing that I would like for us to see a lot more between Colin Kaepernick and Ben Crump. Like, the black community is coming to support this family in their time of need.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that that is a resource and available to this family in this moment. But then moving past that, we do need to start reinstilling those conversations into our younger black and brown girls, guys, and everyone in between, because we're not having those conversations anymore. Because I feel like everyone thinks that we've reached the promised land of milk and honey, where like racial issues is no longer a thing. So all the kids are just normal and everyone is just so tolerant, and that is not the case. We still need to be having these conversations with our children.
And I want to add this to within my final thought is there also needs to be conversations and awareness around your existence as white, with your existence in whiteness, and what that means in existence with other people who are not white. Because I want white people to have a lot more thought and care and concern in the way that they navigate spaces.
Yes.
That before we get to a space where we have to think about optics.
Yes.
Right? Because we teach the thoughtfulness of just making sure that people are people. Because based on what you said, the fact that barely any of the fucking white people have come to his parents' homes, it goes back to the space of what Michael say. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. because I don't think you did this with the intention to be hurtful or harmful, but that is also the part that hurts the most because you did it unintentionally, unassumingly.
And with that, thank you everybody for coming for a very emotionally but necessary conversation. I want to first say rest in peace to Nolan Wells. I want to send condolences
Absolutely.
and love to his family. I hope that his parents, his loved ones, his siblings, his teammates, his friends are able to get through a very, very tough time. And I'm hoping that they are able to get through it together. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming to another episode of Tactless Radio. And we will see you all next time. Mwah. Bye.